Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to week 3 of our Learn with Lo series. We have been really diving into some of the setting the stage with the Learn with Lo episodes so far for the first 2 weeks of really how I got into this field of more of the nutritional medicine. Week 1, if you go back and watch any of the previous recordings, week 1 we really talked about my own health journey and where I've made some mistakes along the way, and being able to then empathize with seeing a lot of other people make some of those same mistakes, just through even good intentions, but being poorly influenced by diet culture or not really knowing what the right information is for them, and then not aligning themselves to the right tools to get to what they want to see. And then week number 2, last week, we got to really dive into the other side of where personally and professionally, not really feeling like everybody finds a place that they belong, either between the more Western medicine allopathic approach or more of the functional minded approach, and where I've really developed a space to help people find something that they do connect to somewhere in between these two worlds, that of the allopathic medicine that's a little bit more like pill for every ill, or the functional medicine side of things that is a little bit more root cause oriented, but may not always see the ultimate picture, or may, in my experience, run some more unnecessary testing or more unnecessary supplementation, right? So going into week 3, we're really going to be able to dive into where this space in the middle was originally created. And it's going to get us into today's topic of why hormone balance isn't solved with just more hormones. If you guys follow me on a social media channel, specifically Instagram, I posted a question box to my Instagram story yesterday because I wanted to hear from your guys' experiences of tackling this topic of hormone balance on your own. There's lots and lots of different modalities and methods out there. Like I said, in between the worlds, between like the allopathic and the Western medicine approach, all the way to more of the functional medicine standards too. And I really just wanted to hear from your guys' experience. What have you tried? What have you been told would balance your hormones? What types of different interventions, whether that was prescription interventions, maybe it was things like birth control or hormone replacement therapy, or other prescription medications around like spirolactone, Accutane, even like type 2 diabetes drugs, anti-anxiety medications, all the way into even like the supplemental categories, or even some of the different diet strategies out there that you've been told will balance your hormones, right? So positive and negative experiences, because like I said, there's some really good stuff out there. There's a lot of professionals sharing their experience and helping people through different approaches, but in this in-between world of really looking at hormone balance from a root cause healthcare, we want to take the time to actually zoom out and look at the body as a whole. And I find that the world between these two is often misunderstood, and there's a lot of kind of some classic hormone imbalance symptoms that are spot treated with some of these different hormonal intervention. So I just wanted to share a few that I got from this question box, because there were a few repeats and there was a lot that were like really common experiences, unfortunately, trying to navigate this world of hormone balance on your own. And then there was some, like I said, really insightful ones that even I was becoming more and more familiar with. So I would say most of the examples that were sent in were around birth control. Birth control being a very popular one that was prescribed either from a very young age to manage things like heavy menstrual cycles or cramping. But then in my world, I start to zoom out and think it's like, okay, if we were aligning that, were we really just symptom suppressing? Were we really covering up some really key symptoms that were probably letting us in on some bigger issues that this person was dealing with? So in using birth control to manage things like heavy cycles and cramping, instead of, I don't know, running labs, maybe looking at things like why why might we have symptoms of low progesterone? Where are things like inflammation or even like prostaglandins coming from, which cause that excessive cramping and the PMS type symptoms? Or I would say another common example that was shared was using some like acne controlling medications like a spirolactone or even things like Accutane for excess like hair growth patterns or acne. Again, to me, it's like, did we do this instead of running labs and asking, why is this person showing signs and symptoms of estrogen dominance? Is there a potential PCOS issue going on? Do we have more insulin resistance patterns going on? Or even like using some of the anti-anxiety meds for things like depression, anxiety, mood changes, instead of really taking that big picture approach and ask like, hey, is this person dealing with blood sugar imbalances, cortisol issues, adrenal issues, right? So that's where I tend to want to educate and pull and the lens out and look from a bigger picture of how does the body work? If we really take the opportunity to understand that these symptoms are really just messages. Our body is trying to communicate from the inside out the status of what it's dealing with on a daily basis. And if we just continue to layer things on top that just suppress the symptoms, now all of a sudden we've cut off the body's communication strategy. It can no longer communicate what it's trying to get you to change. And so then we just end up almost like just kicking the can down the road until we either deal with a bigger issue later on, or we eventually come off that medication and then all the symptoms come back with vengeance. I would say that that's pretty common with any of the like birth control, or especially any of the acne type medications. When people tend to try to come off of those, it's not like we really fixed why there was acne in the first place. We didn't fix anything of why there was chin or mustache hair growth in the first place, or we didn't fix anything of why there was heavy or crazy menstrual cycles to begin with. We just covered them up. So when we take that off, now all of those symptoms really come back with vengeance because they've just been hiding under the surface now. So when we think of this, like I said, kind of a tough spot that a lot of people find themselves in, instead of spot treating symptoms or kind of like shuttling off to different specialists to try to find an answer, we try to guide people based off of what we know about the body, which is one huge interconnected unit that we call the hormone hierarchy. Okay. If you haven't heard of the hormone hierarchy before, I have a few posts about it on my Instagram. I'll make sure to link those in my stories later on today when I repost this, so you guys can do a little bit more digging and have some visual references for yourself too. But the hormone hierarchy is really what your high school health classes and most likely even your doctor never told you about how your hormones actually work. So welcome to Hormone Balance 101. As we dive into how our body really fits together as interconnected pieces, and then being able to identify what is that proper order of operations in which we want to care for the body when we are experiencing symptoms. So, contrary to what modern medicine or even diet culture might tell you, is our body systems do not operate in silos, right? We don't have our menstrual cycle over here with our OBGYN, and we don't have our mental health over here with our therapist, and we don't have our gut health up here with our gastroenterologist, and we don't have our thyroid issues up here with our endocrinologist, right? Our body doesn't work like that. What is happening in one system of the body, the whole body notices, and it is always compensating for in one way, shape, or form. So it's a very interconnected system, and the body is always communicating at every single second what needs to happen in order to prioritize one thing and one thing only, and that is energy. Energy is the body's number one priority any given time, because that means survival. No energy, no survival. So it all goes back to really the level of what the brain is perceiving and what the brain is telling the body to do from an overall hormone aspect. So we're going to dive into giving you guys a really big picture overview of what is the hormone hierarchy. Maybe this will be the first time you've ever thought about your body as interconnected parts and pieces and how it all fits together in one unit, and will help you start to think a little bit more holistically about how to tackle different health symptoms by going back to the base, going back to the root cause first, and making sure that we're addressing things in the right order to really be able to see long-term change and long-term success, besides just slapping on different band-aid solutions to different symptoms and kind of crossing our fingers and hoping for the best. So when we think about how this body interconnects together, we look at it as one unit called the hormone hierarchy. Okay, when we think hierarchy, I want you guys to visualize a pyramid, right? A triangle system that has 3 different layers, right? So the foundational layer of any pyramid structure is going to be the integrity of the overall function of that system. So the foundation of our overall hormone hierarchy, if I had to put one term to it, would be stress management, right? Beautiful. Thanks, Lauryn. What an eye-opening thing to think about. Well, I need to reduce all of the stressors in my life to find healing or hormone balance. No. We are not about that life. That is not realistic. We get it. But the foundation, being stress management, tells us that we really need to look first and foremost at what are our stressors. What is the body perceiving as stress? Internal stressors, external stressors, intentional or unintentional. We need to make sure that we are prioritizing controllable stressors. So the one system that lies at the foundation of our hormone hierarchy is our adrenals, right? Our adrenals are those glands that sit right on top of our kidneys, and they are responsible for secreting our stress hormones, things like cortisol, epinephrine, in response to situations where our body sees energy as a major priority. Okay, so remember that the brain's number one priority at any given time is energy, and stress of any kind is the biggest threat to that energy bucket. So whenever we're activating that more fight or flight side of our nervous system, that sends the message to our adrenals to release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Now, be aware that this can be perceived or not perceived, right? Some of the non-perceived stressors that you may not really think about is things like blood sugar balance, what you eat, when you eat, how you eat, what you don't eat enough of, stress, right? So if we're not fueling ourselves properly throughout the day, we have big swings between too much energy coming in and we're crashing down, and we're fueling ourselves on coffee and nothing to eat until noon, or we're intermittent fasting and we're keto and we're counting all the calories and doing diet bars and diet shakes. It's like our body is stressed, right? Our brain absolutely hates that restrictive energy mode that we get into when we're tied into that diet culture. And you best believe that our body is pumping out an excessive amount of stress hormone to help us mitigate any of that potential energy gap. Okay, so when we think about the foundation of that hormone hierarchy and we're thinking about supporting the adrenals, I want you first and foremost to think about, okay, this goes back on me. This goes back on me making sure that I'm putting my body in a state where it feels nourished, it feels fueled, it feels like, hey body, I am taking good care of you. I got your back. It is not a really solid foundation of a hormone hierarchy to be sitting on random fad diets, under fueling, over exercising, eliminating entire macronutrient categories, dieting on next to nothing, feeling anxious about our food and our relationship with food. That is going to be a very, very shaky and unstable foundation to your overall hormone hierarchy. And then, as we'll talk about, the other layers of the hormone hierarchy are going to feel it. If they aren't now, they will soon. So just understand that the foundation of that hormone hierarchy is going to go back to your adrenals. Our adrenals release cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone responsible for creating energy where there is no energy to be created. right? So we might think like, oh yeah, look at me on my fad diets, my restrictive diets, I'm eating less, I'm moving more. But if we're producing more cortisol, your body composition is not going to do promising things, right? All that cortisol is doing is breaking down muscle tissue in order to find energy to give those amino acids, right? But that's going to lower your metabolic rate and it's going to make it harder to maintain your body composition. Not to mention cortisol raises your blood sugars, which sends cravings through the roof, and it's going to promote more midsection weight gain. It drains your energy, which means you're not going to really want to work out or be active. And then it makes us want to restrict more, eat less, and the whole diet cycle continues, right? So that's why that whole yo-yo diet is so addicting, is because it targets that foundation of our hormone hierarchy. And we think we're doing healthy things, but in reality, if you are following a diet or nutrition strategy that does not promote blood sugar balance, your brain is under stress mode multiple times a day, every day. Right? So that's the foundation of that hormone hierarchy. So when we think about that triangle, that pyramid pattern, the foundation being adrenals and stress management. If that foundation is super rocky, eventually that middle layer of our hormone hierarchy is going to feel it. The middle layer of your hormone hierarchy is your gut and liver health, right? This plays directly into your thyroid balance as well, because our active thyroid hormone is converted in our liver and our gut. So if we have gut and liver issues, we might also have thyroid issues. If you have thyroid issues, you also have gut issues, because you're probably chronically constipated and have a very slow metabolic rate as well. So when we think about that middle layer, that chronic cortisol, because our foundation is super shaky, it's going to promote tons of gut issues, from low stomach acid, which causes acid reflux, which causes pathogens to get through. So we end up with leaky gut, we end up with food sensitivities, we end up with bloating and constipation, and all of that is really going to wear on that middle layer, and that's because the foundation is shaky. So you cannot spot treat gut health. There is no elimination diet, detox, supplement in the world that is going to fix a gut that is part of a metabolic system overstressed. So I even just talked about this with one of my consults today, where she had been dealing with long-term gut stuff, and she had done both, right? Everything from the Western medicine, everything from the allopathic model. She's like, oh my gosh, so many supplements. Oh my gosh, so many detoxes, so many diets. I went raw vegan. I eliminated gluten. I eliminated dairy. Like, these are all things she had tried over the course of like the last 15 years. Upper endoscopies, lower endoscopies, colonoscopies, all of these. She treated things like H. pylori and SIBO, and it's like, she's like, nothing made a difference. I'm like, yes, that is because when we ran her labs, her cortisol was through the roof. She had signs of low stomach acid like crazy, pathogens getting through, leaky gut scenario. I mean, you name it, right? And she's like, I have never addressed the stress. And yep, that's exactly what our plan is going to be together, right? So that middle layer of the gut and the liver and the thyroid cannot be addressed without a rock solid foundation first, okay? Then we're going to get into the very top of that hormone hierarchy. So the very top of that pyramid is going to be your sex hormones, right? Cortisol, remember, going back to the foundation, cortisol is built from the same backbone as all of our sex hormones. That being cholesterol. Cholesterol builds all of cortisol. It builds our testosterone. It builds our estrogen. It builds our progesterone. So you better bet that if our body is a cortisol producing machine, our sex hormones, they tank so fast, right? So that's really where we start to see a lot of issues around like low testosterone, estrogen dominance, crazy menstrual cycles, symptomatic menstrual cycles, inconsistent menstrual cycles, all of that really making sure that we want to go back to that same foundation and kind of address things in the order of operations. Not to mention, if we are having issues with the gut and the liver, that is going to greatly impact our body's ability to detox estrogen. We literally churn and burn through our sex hormones and poop them out every day. So if we're not taking a daily bowel movement, that's going to impede a lot of our sex hormone pathways too. So it's all interconnected, people, right? We cannot treat one system without looking at the entire system as a whole, because that is root cause medicine, right? And that is exactly what we do. And that's exactly why at Renew, we've really built this space for people in the middle, right? It's like understanding the benefits and the function of Western medicine, understanding the benefits and function of functional medicine, but really being able to find that middle ground where people feel like they are treated as one whole system, not just pulled apart into different pieces and spot treated symptoms and crazy amounts of functional lab tests that honestly half of them not even being needed or necessary until you address the foundations first. We may not even need those crazy expensive lab tests or those fancy supplements, right? So it's really just making sure that if you are out there and you're struggling with daily signs of hormonal imbalances, whether that's fatigue, whether that's changes in mood, more anxiety, changes in libido, hair, skin, nails, digestive issues, bloating, constipation, weight changes, menstrual cycle changes, please don't chase these individual symptoms. Work with a practitioner that understands that all of these symptoms are connected. Work with a practitioner that knows how to order appropriate labs and interpret them. Work with a practitioner that knows how to address the foundations first. And with the right order of operations, you'll likely find that a lot of symptoms can kind of correct themselves, right? So I'm super pumped because this overall hormone hierarchy is something that I use very, very frequently in my practice. I'm actually behind the scenes building out a 3-month course for you guys to take advantage of. That's going to launch in the new year. That's going to take you through the extent of this hormone hierarchy, all 3 layers, giving you everything that I know about how to manage your health proactively. So be on the lookout as I tease some more things about an upcoming course that's going to be super exciting. But in the meantime, if you are looking for someone to help you piece through these and you're looking to work with a practitioner that really takes more of a holistic hormone hierarchy approach to root cause nutrition, don't hesitate to reach out. Click the link in my bio. Click the link to apply with me one-on-one or check out my courses, and we'll make sure that you get taken care of and can really tackle all of your health goals proactively and get the best success without unnecessary time, money, or resources wasted. So hopefully you guys, like I said, kind of enjoyed this synopsis around the hormone hierarchy, and we're gonna just be diving deeper and deeper into each layer of the hormone hierarchy over the coming weeks. So I'm excited to continue to set the stage with you guys so that I can get more and more detailed, but I have to give you, again, the bigger picture of where it all fits before we get into the individual parts and pieces, because it'll make a lot more sense. So hopefully you guys, like I said, have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks for tuning in to Learn with Lo, and we'll be back next Monday with more.